Hey guys, just finished watching Krypton, Season 1, Episode 4, The World of Rao, or Word of Rao. This episode was interesting. I mean, first you got to start off with, we got Rao saying that Kandor will be reborn at the beginning of the episode. We got Colin Samson, who's actually, he played Walter, Oliver's stepfather over on Arrow type thing, and we don't really get a name to him here, and there's no name attached to it on IMDb. So it's interesting to see who he ends up being. But he sounds like he knows a bit about Brainiac and stuff, and he breaks into the community hub with a group of armies type thing at the beginning of the episode. We see Val ends up telling Seg that Rom can't be saved, from Brainiac. She's kind of permanently infected type thing. Then we get Lita Zod is charged with treason for working with Black Zero for arresting one of her soldiers in last episode. And then Seg tells Nyssa of X that he's in love with Lita Zod and he wants her to help get Lita out of prison. Hires her kind of as her lawyer type thing, or wants her to act as a lawyer and get her out of prison. Seg is knocked out and then infected with a bug. We find out it's obviously by Colin and stuff, and then we find out that Colin knows about Brainiac, which is interesting with that, and that's his whole mission, is he's trying to take out Brainiac, and Seg questions him, is he Black Zero and stuff, and he says he's not, and he says that he knows Black Zero, but he's not Black Zero, but his focus is on taking out Brainiac and stopping Brainiac. Then Ona ends up giving Rao a gift from her mother once the bartender guy ends up telling her that her mother's kind of dead. And it was an interesting scene with that. I mean, it was a different the way they did that. It was quite interesting. They had the bartender and stuff, and I don't know, that actor. It seemed like he should have been upset or something the way he did it when he said that, and it didn't really change anything in his emotion when he was telling the little girl. It was as almost as if the little girl was better at doing emotions, or being sad than he was telling her type thing, and that was kind of weird with that scene. And then we got a scene later on with Adam Strange in the Fortress of Solitude with Val L, and telling him, calling him Mr. Strange. He's like, no, don't call me Mr. Strange. My father's Mr. Strange. Just call me Doctor. And he's like, no, just call me Adam. That was a good one. That was a good name drop there, reference to Doctor Strange, obviously. That was really fun there. We got the seg-el ends up breaking out as he's being about to be transferred. He makes a deal with Colin. We'll call him for now. But we'll call him Walter or something for now. But we makes a deal with Walter to break Lita Zod out of prison. But when he's about to be transferred, he ends up breaking out and breaking free. And then one of Rao, Ona, ends up becoming a junior servant to Rao, junior assistant to Rao, one of those junior people who dresses in the same way but don't have the head type thing, junior assistant to Rao. So that's interesting with that, to see how that's going to go for her storyline, especially because right after that we see that Rao becomes infected by Brainiac by the device that she gave her. So I guess Ona had no idea and it was waiting to infect Rao type thing. That was quite interesting to see how that's going to go. That's really going to go into a whole new different direction there. And then seg-el ends up escaping, and he escapes into the cold as he's bleeding because he's got cut from the fight earlier on type thing. So all in all, this episode was an interesting episode. I like how the end of this episode doesn't tease Brainiac, because I feel like the last few episodes they've all ended with the last frame being Brainiac. It's like, okay, Brainiac's in the next episode, and no, he's not in the next episode. So I'm glad that they're doing that in this episode, and no longer just having the last scene just being Brainiac, aware of what's going on, or getting the information from Rona or something like that, or Rom. But I mean, I think the idea of, because he's not in the next episode, you don't need to tease him at the end of this episode. Obviously, we know Brainiac is the bigger villain. He's been teased and talked about throughout the whole time. We've seen the main season trailer and stuff. But I hate it when they kind of tease it at the end, and then it not be the next episode type thing. So I'm glad that they didn't put Brainiac in the end of this episode, if he's not in the next episode type thing. Now, if he was in the next episode, episode 6 or episode 5, then I would have him at the end of this episode, setting it up for there, teasing it and stuff. But here, I'm glad they didn't do that. So that was really cool there. I definitely can't wait to see where things go with all this in this show. Finding out who Colin Firth might be, or Colin Salmon, or we'll call him Walter Steele from Arrow type thing, and that's really going to be cool to see who that guy becomes to be and who things turn out. Because all in all, this is going to be pretty cool to see where things are going with this. Some of this story is kind of interesting with that. Hopefully we don't spend too much time on Ona and stuff, and Ona becoming the junior Rao. It could be an interesting story, but like I say, leave it in as much as this is. Just focus more on the whole Brainiac stuff. I feel like in this episode, although it was interesting to see where things are going with this, it's going to be cool to see where Colin comes in, where Walter comes in. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays off. It also feels like there's still no headway to them trying to stop Brainiac. There's still nowhere closer to finding out, oh, Brainiac's going to be closer. There's still nowhere closer to that storyline. I feel like it's still kind of pushing that off, and there's no, we haven't made any treadway, made anywhere closer to Brainiac coming, and it doesn't really, that just kind of bothers me. Now, we did have Rona kind of coming back to life. Maybe she's connected to Brainiac, sending him more information and all that stuff, but I would like to have seen more now in next week's episode of, not just to see, because it looks like from the trailer, it looks like we're getting more of Seg and his captor from this episode there, Walter from Arrow. Get him to kind of looks like they're going to be still butting heads and still getting to work better together. But at the same time, I just want this kind of to go forward and kind of pick up so that we can have Brainiac join the show and actually have him in throughout the episodes, because that's one thing that they've done very well. Is he looks really good, Brainiac, and I hope he's not only in like a few episodes at the end. I like to see him, at least with it almost being halfway, because we only have 10 episodes, at least that's what it says here on IMDb. It would be cool to see Brainiac join in episode 5 and being completely having him in most of the episodes, and all 5 episodes for the end type thing. That would be really cool to see that. So fingers crossed it would at least get him in next week's episode. If not throughout the episode, maybe at the end at least, just teasing that he will be in the full episode of episode 6. I think that could be a way to do it. So all in all, the show is really good. I like the way things are going with this. I just need to pick up the Brainiac storyline and stop diverting from that, and stick on that storyline and kind of really go at it and go full speed towards it, because we only have a few episodes left to go. All right, we only have about 6 episodes left to go, so we're almost halfway there with next week's episode. So that's going to be fun to check that out. So let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below. Season 1, episode 4, The Word of Rao of Krypton, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Kal-El, my future grandson. This is the story of the House of El. The story of your family isn't how we died, but how we lived.